Last night, the Integrity Ignite Series went across the world, visiting the Red Bull Ring. However, tonight, we'll be back in the United States still, doing some more road course racing. It's round 20 of the 2024 Octane Series season, and now our final road course before the regular season concludes brings us back to upstate New York. Welcome to our return to Watkins Glen. Previously a playoff track last year, it served as one of the final events in this regular season schedule, and tonight, it's about time we get into the swing of things for 45 laps of racing here in the Seneca Lake Grand Prix. Welcome back on FTN after a doubleheader last night with the ISRA Xfinity Series Championship and the Ignite Series heading overseas to Austria. We return once again to our home turf, and I'll be your host for tonight's broadcast, covering all the action along the way. David Kreutz commentating and producing. Right now, qualifying's on the move with 7 minutes left on the timing sheet, and currently, Michael Olaya finds himself at the top of the board. Michael going to be there at the head of the field, temporarily at the very least. We'll see whether or not anyone else is able to beat the time he has up there so far. A 1:12.965 is currently the fastest on the circuit. Ethan Lane able to jump up by 0.3 of a second. Now a 1:11.6 is the benchmark time to beat. And we'll see now how these drivers fare in this qualifying session. Fastest time in practice was also set by Ethan Lane. It was a 1:12.76. He's able to best that time by a 1/10.5 to jump up to the pole position, uncontested at least so far. Lane going to lead the way so far in the timing sheets. Bobby Ross, very quick overall in the practice standings. Second quickest overall, now going to find himself third in the qualifying sheet. He'll pass under the Go Bowling Bridge to end his second and final lap. We'll see what else he can get of it. Ross going to jump up from that third position. No improvement on that second lap, but he stays inside the podium. Now Don Stevenson going to be on the way, looking to best the time that Bobby set. Michael Araya, 0.2 of a second at Bobby, and right now, Don Stevenson, only about 46 thousandths off the time that Ross said, is looking for some slight improvement. At the line, he won't find it. That time through, Don Stevenson just a little bit too slow to get another qualifying time, and that would improve for him. One rookie on the day, number 58 of Kyle Gilbert, and the 58, you're going to see him there for the first time taking to the track in this series, is getting some experience behind the wheel, mid-pack in practice, and it looks like right now 12th in the qualifying sheets. Chuck Sweeting in the number 75 is going to be also on the circuit. Brian McFerrin, more of the way. And you can see right now the 0.7 of Brian McFerrin making his way through in the end of his first of 2 laps. Each driver getting 2 laps here at this circuit, and both of which laps should take about 2.5 minutes when all is said and done. This session, being a road course qualifier, gives these drivers double the amount of time they would have in an oval, so they can be very, very lenient or very, very conservative on their opening laps to get themselves prepared to go for a quicker time. McFerrin has had some qualifying strength as of late, but only settles in to the 13th position, and here he finds himself 1.7 seconds behind. Chuck Sweeting is going to be just behind him, and overall, the 2 drivers still going for times sit 13th and 14th respectively. Brad Patton, John Giervon, John Steele, and Randy Fiash are the only drivers who have chosen so far not to head to the circuit for a qualifying lap. Patton last night additionally chose the same thing. However, he started in 20th and decided to start on pit road. Expect him not to start from pit road tonight if he wants to avoid the mistake he made last night, where he fell far too further back on the field. Ended up coming away with a top 15 finish, but it took everything he had over the course of 35 laps to make it back up to that point. Very unlikely that Brad Patton is going to make the same call today, understanding that the field usually gets away scot-free on these initial road course starts. Chuck Sweeting right now going to be seeing Brian McFerrin just ahead, making it to the line. McFerrin looks to be about 0.4 of a second quicker than his last lap, and he's going to improve on that one. It will move him up into 11th, with Chuck Sweeting also a little bit quicker. And at the line now for Sweeting, he'll make his way across the stripe, and the number 75 will move further up the order, getting by Brian McFerrin and jumping up into 9th, leapfrogging Ross Cato and Kyle Cooper in the process. 3 minutes left on the timing sheets, and still drivers we are awaiting for their times. Jacob Fife right now finds himself on pit road installed. It looks like he's going to take one lap and one lap only and will be tentatively in 13th. Ryan Farrell, more of the same, and he's going to be in 5th for the time being. We are still waiting on whether or not John Giervon, John Steele, and Randy Fiash want to go on the track. It's up to them, completely their choice, and that's going to keep us waiting for just a little while longer here in the Glen. So with that being said, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to the championship standings, which we are getting oh so close to officially hitting the playoff picture. So here's a look at the numbers right now and who's locked in and who is not. Michael Araya, Ethan Lane, and Nick Tarbuck, the big three, who so far in 20 races have won 18 of which. It's unbelievable what they've done so far. Of course, this is the 20th race tonight. Of the 19 races that have been completed, they've won 18. Only one other driver has one other win. That's Blake Cannon, and he's been part-time this year, so it looks like he will not be attempting to go for the victory tonight. Lane has 8 wins, which of course he is the winningest driver in this series with 9 career wins. Michael Araya now finds himself tied for the second spot with Seth Noel, and Nick Tarbuck has been able to climb up the ladder after he just got his 4th victory. Now you look back to the drivers who are not technically locked in, but they're looking for a real good run tonight. How's about a guy like Michael Araya? Of course, he's up there, but his teammate, Sam Nieto, in 11th there, 95 points up. Nicholas Ward, Galen Gidman, Brad Patton, Brian McFerrin, to name a few. Right now, Braxton Deweese finds himself on the middle of the cut line, and it is expected that McFerrin will be able to keep on contending, but Braxton Deweese will not be going for the championship in this series, which will give the opportunity to Bobby Ross and Randy Fiash to fight amongst themselves for the final few spots here on the point sheet. It's going to be Bobby Ross who will move up into the upper half of the playoff picture tonight as a result of Braxton Deweese almost entirely retiring himself from the points picture as a contending driver. Ryan Farrell right now going to find himself in the 5th spot. Tom Wetmore just registered into the session, and Wetmore's a driver who continues to make his gains. Hopefully, as it goes on into the final few races, Tom trying to lock himself in. He had himself 5 wins last year. Maybe there's an opportunity for him to get his first this season at a track like Watkins Glen, but he will be starting on the back foot tonight. That is not in question. You can see now this tube and almost a half-mile circuit with it. 8 turns in this configuration, and tonight, Watkins Glen, we're using that NASCAR Cup Series circuit configuration. It is not going to be using the extended boot, which you will see all the way at the end of your screen, but instead we'll be using the stock car layout, which is short, simple, and very, very quick, to say the least of it. Now, it's about time to move on to your 5-minute warm-up. Time to get on to, of course, our starting grid. Let's find out who starts where from top to bottom as final practice begins here at the Glen. Rookies and veterans going at it tonight. Some drivers we have not yet seen this year, and it's time to see what they can do, stacking up against the big three and all the full-time competitors looking to lock themselves into championship contention. At the front of the field to kick things off tonight, it's going to be the driver in the number 54. He's got himself 8 wins so far this season. He's looking for number 9. Let's go Ethan Lane to the front of the board, and beside him, championship rival and points leader Michael Araya, the two of which separated by 0.3 of a second, and the only 2 drivers to get under a 113 in this qualifying session. 112.629 right against Michael Araya's 112.965, head and shoulders above the field. The top 2 are tonight. Then you'll have Bobby Ross, who's looked remarkable so far in qualifying and practice. Bobby's going to find himself starting today in 3rd, and he's going to be just beside Don Stevenson, the both of which might be able to get their best finishes on the season. Reminder, Don Stevenson won at a road course last year and has not, of course, been able to get a win since. Ryan Farrell, position number 5. Nick Tarbuck, fresh off win number 4, is going to be in 6th, and Nicholas Ward will be there in the 7th spot. Kyle Gilbert is the only rookie of the race today, and much like the rookies we saw last night, Josh Stoltz for one, he's looking to make some waves. He'll be starting in 8th, right beside Nicholas Ward. Chuck Sweeting is there in 9th. Kyle Cooper is going to be in 10th, and the 11th spot then from there, he's going to go to Ross Cato. Brian McFerrin is going to be position number 12. Jacob Fife is 13th. Cody Smith is 14th, with Daniel Foss in the number 38. He is in 15th. And Alan Rowell's the 16th and final driver to take a time. You're going to see Tom Wetmore 17th and Brad Patton 18th. John Gearbon's going to be 19th, and Randy Fiash is the final driver in the top 20, with only one more driver registered, the number 22 of John Steele. 11 rows will make up the starting grid for the Seneca Lake Grand Prix, our 20th event of the 2024 season. And so now, just about a 2.5 minute remainder in this practice and qualifying session. We are now on to our final practice portion of this event, and then we'll move on to our 45 lap main feature tonight. A lot on the table for these drivers, and most of which who have been here for the past season or two. They've seen this track on the schedule. However, it came up only once in the playoff picture. Located in Schuyler County, New York, in the town of Watkins Glen, Watkins Glen International has been racing for north now of 7 decades. It's a track iconic all throughout the motorsport world, and tonight we're using that 8-turn 2.45 mile configuration as seen with IMSA, the sports car racing series, with the 6 Hours of the Glen, previously hosting Formula 1 and IndyCar competition. The track now is most prominently known for stock car events such as the NASCAR Cup Series, the Truck Series, and the Xfinity Series, in addition to some ARCA competition and most recently historic events such as historic stock cars and open wheel racing, just to name a few examples. This track is one of the crown jewels of Northeastern motorsport events, and it's well known for its worldwide prestige alongside its consistency in bringing great racing action to the table for viewers and drivers alike. It's become a gem over the past few decades with new reconfigurations to the circuit. On iRacing, this track was rescanned and redeveloped in 2021 to provide an accurate feel for how the circuit is in real life. I've had the pleasure of being at Watkins Glen International a few times, walking throughout the circuit, and this is just about how the track looks to this day. There are going to be a few major changes coming up soon, namely the bus stop here at the Glen will be receiving a different texture of curbing. It's not going to be the same as you see right now, which is relatively modern, but after the 2023 event, they will be switching the compound, and it will be a less adhesive sort of curb. It's going to be a little bit more restrictive for drivers as they make it through the bus stop and then head down the carousel. The rest of the track is just like real life now. You'll see, making through the final corner out of the carousel, a lot of asphalt as opposed to a gravel trap, which there used to be some 20 years ago, and drivers have a lot of freedom with how they decide to approach the circuit. Track limits at a minimum with the exception of this first turn. iRacing is determined that if you take this turn a little bit too wide and go beyond the yellow and red curvature, this is a penalty, a slowdown penalty at that. So you'll see Ethan Lane especially delicate in making his way around, even though he is by and large the fastest driver in this session. By 0.6 of a second, Ethan Lane is at the top of the board once again in our final practice of the day. And so now that practice and qualifying have concluded, it's about time to figure out who's got what it takes. Front row lined up once again, Ethan Lane and Michael Laraya, who have been the best drivers of the series so far, with 14 of the 19 wins collected this season, going to the 2 of which, and don't count out Nick Tarbuck, who's gotten himself 4 as well. It's hard to imagine explaining this series and this season coming in based on what we saw last year, where we saw a number of drivers making it into victory lane on a week in and week out basis. By the time we hit Daytona for the second time on the schedule last year, we had some 7 or 8 winners, from Cody Smith, who got it done in Daytona to start, all the way down to drivers like Sam Nieto and Jacob Fife and Tom Wetmore in between, with some race winners sprinkled in like Caitlin Height and, in addition, Ryan Farrell. And of course, Nick Tarbuck getting a piece of the action. Ethan Lane did too. So with that being said, 3 drivers are accountable for 95% of the wins so far this season. It is quite the shock, to say the least, and they've all done their fair share in bringing us to that point. Ethan Lane to the inside line will get things rolling down low. 45 laps on the table. Let's talk about strategy here while we've got a little bit of time. 108 degrees Fahrenheit, the track temperature. 80 degrees on partly cloudy skies for the air temp, and overall should be a relatively warm day. However, don't expect it to be too nauseating for the drivers inside the cockpit. We shouldn't see track temps exceed 115 Fahrenheit, and they should decrease back to double digits before the racing is over, expecting some early sunset hour action by the time this race comes to a close, with 45 laps for the drivers. Pit road also going to be rather busy. 3 tire sets allowed, plus what you start with today, so you have 4 overall to work with. Don't expect drivers to use more than 2 or 3 at the absolute most. We should be seeing 2 pit stops with 45 laps on the table. We will see the first pit cycle at about lap 15, give or take. Then at about lap 30, next batch is going to come in, and that should be the group that gets us to the end of the race here. So, Lane and Lariah are going to be in control, dictating the strategy, but also dictating how the field makes it through this first lap. And we'll see if they do a good job of which, and hopefully avoid some early racing chaos. Went to the Watkins Glen International circuit earlier in the year with the Integrity Ignite Series, and the big 3 drivers battling each other there. Justin Morton eventually getting his first win of the season. Morton not in this race tonight, although he has been a part-time Octane Series competitor, and deciding instead to take the week off here, and he did, of course, come home with a top 5 finish last night. Have himself a little bit of a break here and focus full efforts on that full-time campaign he's involved with JTM Motorsport, as Matthew Thunhorst additionally not in this event as well. The JTM drivers have backed out, and the full-timers are the odds-on favorites, Michael Lariah and Ethan Lane. Lane's going to have the pole position and the preferred groove going into the initial 90-degree turn to kick off the race, and as the drivers pass under the gold bowling bridge one final time, the pace car will bid the field farewell, and it's time to see what the big 3 have in store at our final twisty and turny circuit of the regular season. Ethan Lane going to bring the field to the green flag for the first time tonight in Watkins Glen. Welcome to the Seneca Grand Prix. Lane will lead the field into 1, and the field will follow him in tow. Across the line, Ethan Lane going to have the race lead. He's already jumped out with a 2-second advantage, and Bobby Ross has been able to make his way up in a second. Ross is looking better than ever tonight, and the number 45 crew all of a sudden jump out into the second spot, and he's holding it so far just ahead of Michael Lariah. The battle for second is going to heat up tonight against one of our strongest contenders, one of our most predictable contenders at the front of the field, and perhaps a driver who hasn't gotten all too many chances to show his worth at the the front. Although Bobby Ross has been able to make himself a top 5 contender multiple times this season, running up in second from the jump for Bobby, almost some uncharted territory, and it looks like so far handling it well and getting up to second from that third place start is going to move the 45 crew now into the runner-up position. Ryan Farrell is going to be further on back in the 4th spot, and Farrell, part-time this season, has shown his most successful drives at the road circuits ever since the beginning of this series in 2023. And you might remember a notable battle between him, Seth Noel, and Caitlin Height, which went on at the Circuit of the Americas. And Farrell, he found himself in the middle of that battle until the tail end. Eventually, Seth Noel was able to get the better of the other two drivers, but Ryan fighting nose to tail in that battle, well known for keeping himself in the action while not getting himself hurt. And his priority tonight is once again going to be keeping a clean race car, as Nick Tarbuck now goes down to the inside on Don Stevenson. And it looks like Stevenson now going to lose a spot to the 97 on the inside. It's Nicholas Ward making his way through, and Nicholas now gets up into 6th. Tarbuck is going to be now in the 5th spot, and Nick is going to lead the two drivers down. Up in front of the field, still going to be Ethan Lane, and early on, looks like drivers are settling in nicely. However, there's still a ways to go, as you see Kyle Cooper and Jacob Fife. Fife going to look down to the inside, and it looks like for the Pro Powder and Paint number 36, he'll back off once again, giving Kyle Cooper just enough room as necessary to go through the bus stop without any intervention. And being especially respectful right now in these early laps, not trying to risk what's on the table here. Of course, a good top 10 finish, if that, maybe something even more, as Jacob Fife now goes down to the inside groove. And although he'll be hanging on the outside through this penultimate corner, he would have the advantage if he sticks it dead even into the last corner and under the Go Bowling Bridge. You'll see Fife now able to make it by Cooper for the 10th position, and Kyle falls out of the top 10, at least for now, with Brad Patton also chasing. And tonight, Brad Patton not going to make the mistake of not starting with the field. Instead, he will line up 18th, and he will roll from there. And you can see now the number 7 crew is up into 11th as a result, making up a total now of 7 positions. And maybe his eyes are already on a top 10 finish, if maybe even more. The way things are going, a much better start than last night, and learning from that mistake and taking his chances has benefited substantially. John Giervon and Daniel Foss, Randy Fiash too, all going to be multiple laps down, and that's because of an early incident which occurred. It looks like Jonathan has gotten back on the way, and we're going to take a look back right now as to what exactly happened. Here's the instant replay, and you're going to see it. Daniel Foss and company coming through. This looked to have happened on the initial lap, mind you. So, taking that official look back, you can see substantial damage for the 38 of Foss. Here's the replay, which will show you contact with Brad Patton will send the 38 down and in. John Giervon also going to nose the wall, and Randy Fiash collected as well. He gets that front end damage too. It looks like Giervon able to get away with that front end trouble. However, all 3 of which are going to go multiple laps down, and now they'll just have to figure each other out. Of course, maybe trying to get back in the pack. I don't think it's going to be likely at the pace they will be running, because right now Giervon got away, the other 2 not so much, and looks like early substantial repair as the battle for second so far has been open and shut. Bobby Ross has been hanging on well and has kept himself ahead of Michael Araya for the opening 5 laps. And a great way so far for Bobby Ross to kick off this race. We saw him for the better part of last year's events. He came in for the second half and for the most part was a consistent part-time driver coming in for the majority of that second segment of the season, and he was able to go for that quick ascent. You might remember first top 10 finish he got was at the Bristol Dirt Circuit, where he came home with a top 10 and then moved on from there. He does have a podium under his belt in his career and multiple top 5 finishes, and now is looking to seal the deal and perhaps come around with a very impressive second place run. The only problem for Bobby tonight is that he finds himself smack in the middle of what's become almost a racing dynasty in the Octane Series, the Big Three. And Ethan Lane is looking to prove that the Big Three will not lose again. This would be their 19th win in 20 races. And now Michael Araya looking to take the fun away from Bobby Ross and making it through the early portion of the S's. Bobby's going to fall back to third, and Michael Araya turns on the Big Three jets and has himself up in second as the battle persists further behind. Nick Tarbuck now going to be coming up on the number 93 of Ryan Farrell. Farrell so far been able to hang tough and has not shown any signs of movement except for some positive movement. He started today in 5th, has made his way up into 4th, and it looks like now the number 93 machine relatively comfortable where he's at and showing no signs of trying to push all too hard to go further up. And the Amoco machine, red, white, and blue and all, has come back to the northeastern front, and so far, he's succeeded. But Nick Tarbuck is trying to take that spot away from him and then some, as it looks like Bobby Ross might be trailing a little bit further off from Michael Araya. We might see a multi-car battle now for the 3rd position, as Bobby Ross might be heading down, and Nick Tarbuck might be headed up. Ryan Farrell is going to be smack in the middle of the equation, if that's what it comes down to. Ross Cato neck and neck now with Jacob Fife, and it looks like Cato going to give that spot away and give another to Brad Patton. This will move Patton up into 10th, and his next opportunity to pass will be Jacob Fife just ahead, which would bring Brad up to the single digits starting in 9th, just 7 laps ago. And talking about great fundamental racing, Brad Patton has the skill to go at it lap after lap, and he is unbelievably consistent, even though he starts at the back of the field. Last night was a little bit more of an anomaly. We were at the Red Bull Ring. 35 laps of racing there is never easy, and it's a long circuit. There's very little opportunity to sort of come back if you set yourself off with a massive deficit, and Ross, of course, he's up there in 3rd. We'll keep an eye on that battle for Brad Patton. He decided to start on pit road, missing the traditional start, and instead falling back some 15-20 seconds, which was practically irredeemable by the time he got back out off of pit road. And while he did have a valiant effort making his way up into the top dozen when all was said and done, definitely not a night that Brad Patton would want to look back on and remember, to say the least. However, tonight might be yet another example that Brad has what it takes to keep on contending. Even though he's sort of limited himself, he has shown exactly what he has with regards to speed and skill. He just has not made it easy on himself, knowing it's more fun a challenge. And the difficulty of the racing that Brad Patton has encountered has perhaps been the motivation that's kept him to keep going so quickly throughout the year. Patton, we saw him last year, was not much of a championship contender, although he turned things on by about the midway point of the season, having some very impressive runs, namely Texas for one. Ever since then, it looks like he's come back with a new approach of trying instead to go from the back up. It's kept that motivation level high because he has something to prove week in, week out, that he can start from the back and still pass the competitive drivers. And he's already gotten up to that point of the field where it is rather competitive. Fife has not made it easy to get the pass so far, but I have no doubt now that Brad Patton has an idea of exactly what he wants to do here to make that pass and get the move done. We just have to see whether or not he can execute it from this point onward and perhaps get there successfully. Coming around for lap number 9 now out of 45. Nick Tarbuck now in the middle of the battle. Is within a quarter of a second here of Ryan Farrell. Farrell has been able to continue defending, no major changes or any drastic shifts. Nicholas Ward is still watching aboard, but it looks like he has not decided so far to put his nose into it and has still kept himself relatively far back, trailing delicately in anticipation of what is yet to come. Here now, Nick Tarbuck finds himself in the back bumper of Farrell going through the bus stop, and Ryan ever so slightly wider, doesn't give himself up just yet, and Tarbuck now decides to keep himself low. Into the carousel, most drivers with that very similar line taking themselves through the lower groove and powering right out. It's happened once again, and so Nick Tarbuck still holds fort. Most drivers right now look to be running a relatively similar pace. Cody Smith now going to be coming up quickly, though, on Kyle Cooper. And while it looks like Cody's got a little bit more damage on that left front, here we go. He's going to make the move. Cooper's going to go sliding, and he'll go all the way to the end where the gravel trap is. It's a very impressive save for one from Kyle Cooper, but my goodness, the number 73, what an unforced error that was. Cooper getting back on the way, but that could have been much, much worse. We'll take a ride on board here with Kyle Cooper and try to show you what just happened inside the cockpit here with the driver of the number 73, who held himself quite well despite the circumstances. No contact. But Cooper definitely rattled by seeing just behind him Cody Smith coming in hot, and it looks like been able to keep himself going. Kyle right now going to be running in 14th. He gave up a spot to Chuck Sweeting as well, but for Cooper, overall a solid recovery and good enough to keep himself progressing at an abnormal rate. Yes, but now he's got a chance to gain those spots again. Nick Tarbuck is coming up now on Bobby Ross, and closer the field will come to the number 45. Now we'll see what Bobby can do with respect to tire saving, if of course that's on his mind. 11 laps into the 45 here, the question becomes, does any driver really care too much about the tire saving here? Two-stop strategy would be 15 laps per run, and we're coming up rather close to that number as Nick Tarbuck continues to lay down the pressure here on Ryan Farrell. Take a ride on board now with the number 4 and see exactly what he's doing, chasing Farrell up the S's. It looks like Ryan Farrell keeping himself just ahead and holding it steady. Tarbuck that time by was about 9/100ths of a second quicker overall. The gap minimal, but he does have that slight advantage. We'll see what Nick Tarbuck can do, though, with that extra speed. It really doesn't seem like it has come into play just yet, and maybe looking for a bit of an unforced error, like what we saw there with Cody Smith and Kyle Cooper trying to rattle the driver ahead of you before you get to truly aggressive tactics. You don't want to go for that contact so early because it could leave you with trouble in the future. And it looks like a few drivers now coming down to pit road. Alan Rawell, not one of which he just spun out through the bus stop. And Alan going to be in a little bit of trouble here. Let's figure out what happened here for Rawell, the number 69, as he goes around sliding and what looks to be on his own. Alan Rawell not going to bring out a yellow flag tonight. No full course yellows on the table, but certainly not what he'd like to see as we take a look back. And just getting a little too wide there through the bus stop and coming up the track. No contact this time around, so Rawell should be able to keep on driving as he did, and there should be little issue with just how he's been going at it. Battle right now for the 11th spot, and it looks like it's going to be Alan Rawell. That's live. He just spun again. We come back for the replay. He did just spin once again in the exact same spot. Trouble there for Alan Rawell for the second time. Meanwhile, Ross Cato just got passed by Cody Smith. Smith is up into 11th here, and it looks like he's been able to gain 0.4 of a second down the final sector alone. And this battle is now 4 drivers in one string. Bobby Ross now has the pressure behind him, and he's going to have to stay calm and collected here because Farrell, among others, they are coming in hot and looking for those positions. Cutting low, Bobby Ross keeping himself pretty well together through the bus stop, and Nicholas Ward maybe a little bit swerving up and down. Going to cost him a few tenths of a second. Ryan Farrell and, of course, Nick Tarbuck now looking to make a move. Bobby going to go rather wide, but it looks like he will have the defensive advantage now through the penultimate series of corners. Coming down on the carousel, they'll give Bobby room once again, and now Nick Tarbuck decides to swipe low on the number 93 of Farrell. Can Ryan decide to hold on? Looks like he does, only for Tarbuck to swap to the bottom side again. Almost contact through the Go Bowling Bridge, but Farrell gets away. That will distract everyone besides Bobby, and the 45 gets through once more, 14 laps in, and he gets the edge out of that battle as now Bobby Ross is going to be a little bit out of pressure. It's going to be Jacob Fife who's feeling the pressure and big, as Brad Patton now is going to be able to duck low, and he'll be looking for 9th for the first time all night long. Ross has been able to hang himself high with that 3.5 of a second lead. He's got over Ryan Farrell, and now Brad Patton able to cut through and take it from Jacob Fife. That's the move for 9th, and it's going to be Tom Wetmore having to look just behind in the rearview mirror up next. And it could be here now. As you see, there's a lap machine in Kyle Gilbert, who is 2 laps down currently, getting involved in the fight. Brad Patton coming up on Gilbert here, and he is substantially slower. That's going to shoot Brad Patton out to the outside. Tom Wetmore spins. Wetmore spins on his own. He'll give up multiple positions, but still save it. Tom Wetmore still driving, and the lapper might be the only saving grace he had. Wetmore is still going, and he's only a few tenths back as a result of that lap car interference. Tom did a great job getting by the number 51 here, and as he got by Kyle Gilbert, he was looking to set himself up into the corner. Now watch what happens here. Got back on the throttle a little too early, slides, full spins, and he keeps it straight. Gets out of the way of the drivers he was battling with, and very respectful conduct. Very nice to see. As we look up and ahead one more time, Ryan Farrell now going to be jousting with Bobby Ross once more. Let's see now what Bobby can do, as he's got a load of drivers coming up and a lapper to deal with. John Girovon goes low, goes all the way down to the grass, ducking to the bottom, gives everyone their room. Up next is going to be John Steele. The lappers are being caught up to and quick. Ross right now has a train of 4 he's having to deal with, and Steele going to give just enough room coming out of the bus stop. Now it looks like Ryan Farrell, who's got to be all on the offense, will have to hang it through the carousel for any chance by the time they hit the Go Bowling Bridge. On this lap anyway, he's got to be a little bit more aggressive. He wants the instant pass, but this gives Nick Tarbuck room. And here comes the 4, ducking low. Nick Tarbuck looks for a shot to the inside. Now he'll take it once again, but this time they're door to door. And it looks like Ryan Farrell has to overcorrect himself. And now side by side, Tarbuck going to stay right to the quarter panel. And now Nicholas Ward makes it 3 wide into turn 1. Ward's going to be the driver with the overall advantage. 3 wide in the first turn. Someone's got to give, and they won't. Nicholas Ward keeps on going. Ryan Farrell keeps it high. And now Ward's going to be side by side with the other Nicholas and Tarbuck. And Nick Tarbuck is up to 4th now. Ward up to 5th. Ryan Farrell gives away 2 spots. It falls down to 6th. So Ryan Farrell now going to drop back a few positions, giving a Nick Tarbuck the overall advantage in this battle. 16 laps in out of 45. A little bit of sliding further on back, and it looks like Ryan Farrell is going to get loose and keep himself straight. He gets very loose out of the corner there, and it looks like perhaps some contact. Let's take an instant replay here to figure out what in specific led to the 93 getting all topsy-turvy. As that was coming out of the bus stop, once again, trouble, much like what we saw from Tom Wetmore. It looks like this time around, it's going to be Ryan Farrell falling down to 7th. He stays right on Ward and going into the carousel. No contact, he just lets off, and he gets almost into the wall. Luckily saves himself. The inside retainer does not have to do any work, and Don Stevenson gets away from it as well. He's in 6th for the time being, and for the first time now all race, things are beginning to simmer down. However, don't expect it to stay that way for long. 16 laps in now out of 45, making it a lap number 17. Pit road should be on the eyes and the minds of most every driver here as they anticipate what the next call is to come down at pit road and advance themselves in this strategy call. We should be seeing a 2-stop strategy come into play. If anything, drivers could try to go to a lap 22 or 23 to make it a 1-stopper. That's not impossible just yet, but the safe call would be the 2-stop strategy, which some drivers might decide to go for, as opposed to going for the little bit of a riskier 1-stop strategy. We've seen before in FTN competition that final turn can mean all the difference. Just a few weeks ago on a Thursday night, it came down to 2 drivers, as we see right now. Bobby Ross and Nick Tarbuck at it again. Tarbuck now with the advantage. Bottom side is his, and it looks like Nick, at long last, will take Bobby Ross out the podium. Ross fighting valiantly, and now he's going to try to go for that switchback on the inside, but not enough momentum off the corner. And Tarbuck makes his way through. Yet again, you see Bobby Ross right now in 4th, and we mentioned the last turn and that extra fuel saving can be make or break. Broadcasting from the VOR Racing Network just a few Thursdays back, it was the last turn that made all the difference in a race victory. it was just a 500-foot drag race. One driver running out of fuel, the other with just enough to make it along the way and coming from behind to get that win. If you save fuel, you will be in a better spot to end this race. It's as simple as that, and if you have enough to make it to the end of the race comfortably, you'll be driving with a little bit more of that confidence. And being a confident driver pays dividends here, especially at Watkins Glen. It's not necessarily the most technical of circuits. Most drivers have the chance to get this track down in a few laps or so. Most drivers are running very similar lap times. I mean, at this point, the spread between first and 13th, we're looking at in Chuck Sweeting in lap times, is give or take a second and a half at the very most. Watkins Glen is not the most challenging track to understand. What is challenging about Watkins Glen is the ability to master it. And if you are the quickest driver consistently lap in, lap out, that is the gift, of course, of the best driver. And tonight, well, we can tell who's the best driver by looking at the intervals. 10 seconds up on the rest of the field. Ethan Lane has not looked back, and he is looking to go for his own sort of Thomas Bressi-style domination. Bressi was the fastest driver in both practice sessions and qualifying and led the most laps, led all but one as a matter of fact, and won the race. Ethan Lane, tentatively speaking, could be on pace to go again, and that's what Bressi did last night. This time, doing it on American soil. We'll see whether or not he's got what it takes to finish the job. Now Nicholas Ward going to be coming up on Bobby Ross, and he already has to make the pass. Up next for him would be Nick Tarbuck. Ward again going to be just outside the confines of the podium, and it feels like yet again it's an opportunity that might be just a little bit too far out of reach, which has unfortunately been the way we've seen a lot of these races go down for Nicholas Ward. He has yet to record an official podium just yet. However, he has come substantially closer than most drivers in the field have ever had the chance to do so. Ward is someone who definitely has the pace to score. If he were to compete for the rest of the season, I wouldn't be surprised if he were able to get one eventually. However, it's never a guarantee when it comes to Ward and company, as Chuck Sweeting is going to get rather loose. The trouble for Nicholas Ward is most often not his own fault. There's two things that are the trouble. His hardware issues, which have been persistent ever since he joined the league. He has disconnected from the lead multiple times. And then, of course, the problem of how competitive the field is right now. The big three are first, second, and third, and they're in by winning order. 8-time winner Ethan Lane is going to be up and ahead over Michael Araya in second. Nick Tarbuck is there in third with 4 wins, and then the rest of the field, winless as can be, is fourth on down. Just unbelievable to see the difference between the top 3 drivers and those who are at the rest of the field level. I mean, Nicholas Ward tonight doing a great job. Bobby Ross as well, but Tarbuck has been able to find a way from 6th up to 3rd. He's made 3 positions up tonight, and we didn't expect that Tarbuck would be perhaps the best of drivers of the road courses. He's quick most everywhere we go, but it looks like tonight he's become a threat again to fight for another very successful performance, even though might not be the most impressive road course racer. By nature, he's proven to be quick in these Gen 4 cars above most of the field, regardless of venue. Now, 0.3 of a second behind Ross Cato. Chuck Sweeting still remains. Look in the back end right now of Cato and see what's going on. Riding aboard now, the number 12 of Ross Cato. He currently finds himself in the 12th position and has been able to hang himself right up into the middle of the pack, 22 laps in out of 45. We are coming especially close now to the halfway marker in this fuel picture, and it looks like most drivers are indeed going for the one-stop strategy, which looked infeasible to start. Everyone has been able to save successfully, and as such, we're going to see a very competitive pit stop cycle coming very soon, as Cody Smith now goes down and under on Jacob Fife as he begins to look for 9th. Cody Smith continues to trek up. He started today in position number 14. Up in the 10th and now looking for a top 10 spot as 3 drivers come in succession. There is Chuck Sweeting with Kyle Cooper, and Tom Wetmore went with as well. Pit road now going to be busy as drivers make their way in for the first time with 24 laps remaining. This will be the first and only pit stop for any driver competing for the race win, as it looks like the one-stop strategy is the competitive one of the day. Here comes Wetmore making his way out. A 42.7 stop for him in and out of pit lane, and he'll return once again to the racing circuit. This will leave a lot of drivers now with an opportunity to begin understanding what's the right time to head down a pit road. It's definitely on the minds of these guys in the field, and it looks like for Jacob Fife and Cody Smith, they'll just continue to battle one another. Up top, there goes Cody Smith to the high side, and he's got the number 36 right down low. It looks like now the Pro Powder and Paint 36 team having a chance to defend and send Cody Smith up to the high side. 23 laps in with 23 laps to go. Ethan Lane leads now by a total of 11 seconds. The lead has not gained all too much substantially in the past 5 or so laps, but he's been very, very consistent. And that's what matters here in these final 22 laps. With 22 laps to go, as always, we're going to crank it up courtesy of our partners at TrackCams22.com. The best broadcasters in the iRacing scene choose the best camera creators. And for that reason alone, TrackCams for Gourmets is the official FTN camera provider for all Integrity Racing League broadcasts. Visit TrackCams22.com after tonight's broadcast, as we're going to get loud and crank it up here from upstate New York with 22 laps to go. Yellow flag is out. It's going to be our first full course yellow of the day, and it should be, if all things are correct, our only yellow flag is going to be out, and we've got ourselves a little bit of a break in the action now as drivers settle themselves back in. Jacob Fife is going to be the man on the call for the caution here, so we're going to take a look back and see exactly what gave way to this full course yellow with 19 laps to go. Fife going to be given the call here, so we'll watch back with him and figure out what just caused it. Chuck Sweeting appears to have been involved, and we're going to watch out now. Going up through the S's with Ross Cato here. And also Jonathan Gearvon. Gearvon much slower now than Ross Cato. Looks like the lapper not getting out of the way immediately. We'll see. Oh, it's Brad Patton. Patton is going to be up in the middle of the track, and that is a huge incident. And it looks like it starts instead with the number 7 of Brad Patton. Yellow flags out, and it looks like he might have gotten contact from Cody Smith. Let's take it back a few more seconds here and see what happened with the number 18 of Smith, as it looks like he and Brad Patton side by side. Patton definitely quicker. Both avoid Randy Fiash, and Patton now coming along the way. Brad got loose, then went up the track. Minor contact from Cody Smith. Then came Chuck Sweeting with Jonathan Gearvon. Chuck can't see what's going on at this angle, and it looks like, as a result, he gets a piece of it. And that will end Chuck Sweeting's day. Randy Fiash, to begin with, had the damage there. And with 18 laps to go, we're going to take a lap on board, or rather a sector on board, to see what it was like from the perspective of Chuck Sweeting. And he was just trailing Gearvon there, and Patton moves, and that's it. Right into the retainer. Nothing more that can be done there for Chuck Sweeting, and unfortunately, that will end his night. We take a look back live here. Ethan Lane going to be leading with 18 laps to go. So now, initial troubles are first for a full course yellow anyway. Brings us back pacing here. Lane, Lariah, Tarbuck. The 1-2-3 combo at the head of the field in the Seneca Lake Grand Prix. Pit road will not be expected, at least for the time being. Drivers have the opportunity to go in, and it looks like most of which have decided not to. 18 laps to go this time by. How's about we take a look at what's going on with the top 10 from top to bottom. Ethan Lane going to be leading from Michael Araya in second. Nick Tarbuck then and there going to be in third, with Nicholas Ward fourth and Don Stevenson in fifth. It'll be Bobby Ross in sixth and Ryan Farrell going to be in seventh. Eighth spot is going to go to Cody Smith, and it'll be Tom Wetmore ninth, with Ross Cato concluding the top 10. We have a little bit of time here in between the racing action, so we'd like to thank Next Level Racing, the premier partner for all of the Next Level Racing content here, the Integrity Racing League, both for the Integrity Ignite and Octane Series, supporting us all throughout the 2024 racing year. Visit nextlevelracing.com for more information and check out with promo code INTEGRITY for 10% off all purchases, as we'll return after a following message from our friends at nextlevelracing.com. Returning now with one lap to green. Ethan Lane going to be advantageous, and it looks like the signal given for the time being. An extra lap on the table. Lane, Lariah, Tarbuck, 1, 2, 3, and in the opening 25-plus lap stint we just saw, so far, everyone been able to hang tough and keep themselves in a nice situation except for that one major incident, namely Ethan Lane. Lane has led every lap on the day so far and now has the opportunity to finish the job and get the checkered flag leading every lap from the pole. Passing the iRacing pace car here, it looks like number 54 going to get a little bit extra cruising time in. Michael Araya hangs side by side, and as it stands, 14 drivers on the lead lap going back to Brad Patton. Patton going to be the last of which still qualified on the lead lap, and he has himself there just ahead of John Steele, who is now 2 laps down. The rest of the field either multiple laps down or retired, and for the case of a driver like Chuck Sweeting, he's both of which, and Alan Rowell, the first retiree of the day. Additionally, both retired and far out of contention, 15 laps down as we speak. 30 laps in, we're going to come back with 14 laps remaining once we get the green flag yet again. It'll be Ethan Lane and Michael Araya still holding fort and being the 1-2 combo to bring us in. And the big three are first, second, and third once we head back green again. And so now the field is going to get bundled up again for a double file restart, and it should be our first and only. Yellow flag going to come out as a result of an incident involving, among others, Cody Smith, Chuck Sweeting, and a few others who were involved very briefly, including John Girvan and, of course, lap machine Randy Fiash. And it looks like a whole kerfuffle on the circuit gave way to a full course caution. Most unexpected now as we come to the tail end of this race. The home stretch is in full swing here. We go green at lap number 31. 2/3 of the race have been completed so far, and now the last stretch is all that's left. See what happens now with the 54 lane down low, and he's going to bring the field through the bus stop and get ready to go at it at full pace yet again. And now as the field heads out of the bus stop, still a total of 19 drivers left on the track, which means, even though not everyone's going to be on the green flag, we should be fine to have just a few more laps of full field racing unless something were to occur. 15 laps to green when we go back at it this time by. Lane and Leroy have been dominant first and second, but Ethan Lane's the only driver so far who's led a lap in the entire event. We'll see whether or not anyone can change that here and now. It might just be the best opportunity anyone gets. Time to figure out who's got what it takes here. Coming to the penultimate 2 turns. Leroy down low, Ethan Lane up top, and Ethan will have the advantage. Once we get back at it here, it's going to be Don Stevenson, Nicholas Ward, Bobby Ross, Ryan Farrell, Cody Smith. The mid-pack were still right behind the leaders. And we'll see now what they have, as we have only 15 coming to 14 laps to go just ahead of us. Green flag going to fly for the first restart of the night. Ethan Lane going to bring the field back to the green flag. Lariah right up top. And here we go again for our final sprint of the day. Lariah hangs it up high, but Lane has the advantage in the 1. Top 5 drivers able to break away so far. Looks like now it's going to be Don Stevenson just behind Nicholas Ward. The big 3, 1, 2, 3, hanging each other up in front of the field. Nobody else going to be alongside Ethan Lane, though. It's clear as day. Lane has himself exactly where he's been all night long, in a league of his own, while the rest of the field continue to chase one another. Bobby Ross going to drop that briefly in the 7th here. Just ahead of him is going to be Ryan Farrell. And you see Ryan, he's got himself now just about 10th of a second behind Don Stevenson. We'll see what he can do now as we come down to a baker's dozen remaining. 13 laps to go this time by. And The advantage is still held by Ethan Lane. He had a 10.5-second lead at the end of the first pit cycle, and now he's got a chance to maybe build that up. He's already a second up on Michael Araya as the field comes through yet again. Weather has been changing so far today, and in an hour that we've had in this session so far, sunset has become more and more prominent. From what was, of course, about 3 o'clock p.m. weather has become 5 p.m. weather, and iRacing drivers and setup owners or settings holders for the league, they've had the chance to switch up the settings, and so accelerated timing means that the track will get cooler quicker. We're now down to a 96-degree track temperature, which means that tires should be less slick and should have a lot more control, giving Ethan Lane the chance that time by to run his fastest lap of the entire event. A 112.432 is now going to be the quickest in the session, and it's now going to be Ethan Lane holding fort with a race lead that is ever growing. Michael Araya behind him set his own fastest and a 111.998. How about we ride on board right now with the number 44 machine and see what's going on for Araya as he continues to chase after Ethan Lane. And now going through the S's, here's Michael Araya making his way through. A little bit of pressure behind him, even though it looks like for now he's hanging on well. He's got Nick Tarbuck just a 10th on back. Tarbuck looking to get by your regular season points leader. Araya is expected to lock up the regular season points championship if all goes well at Michigan in the final races just ahead. Ethan Lane has stated he will not be competing for the finale of the regular season, and that will give the opportunity for Araya to lock it up early so long as he keeps himself up at the front of the field and does not give way to disaster. Araya has been remarkably consistent so far this season, and he has been the embodiment of the big three. If it comes down to one driver, Michael Araya has been that man. His standings, of course, overall, he's the leader in the championship and the second winningest driver on the season, coming in with 6 victories so far. He goes a little bit up higher there than Nick Tarbuck does that time around, but very little trouble. Of all the races that we've had so far, and we've had 19 of which, including, of course, this one, make it 20. And Michael Araya finishes where he is right now. This would be his 19th top 10 of the season. He has a 95% top 10 rate, and in addition, this would be his 15th overall top 5, which would mean he has a 75% top 5 rate in addition to 6 victories on the campaign. An unbelievably consistent driver Michael Araya has been, and he's looking to keep on proving it again and again and again. He is the man that has to be looked out for the championship. Lane might have more wins, but Michael Araya has been consistent through thick and thin and has only had one bad race on the entire season. Every other race has been a top 10, and 3/4 of these races overall have been a top 5 finish, including this one if he is to finish where he does tonight. 11 laps to go this time by, making it to lap number 35 of 45 laps in. Here's Nick Tarbuck still holding right behind, and another battle progresses with Bobby Ross and Jacob Fife. Fife down and in, makes the move on Bobby Ross and is now going to have a chance to hold the advantage into the S's. Bobby falls back into the 9th position, and it looks like now he's going to have a little bit more trouble with Cody Smith coming up, and Cody looking to put a little bit more of that pressure down himself. Let's see what this number 18 team can do. Coming aboard here, number 18 of Cody Smith. He's been able to make his way up to the top 10 from 14th on the grid, and he's been remarkably consistent in these road courses, running in the top 10, even if he hasn't been anything all too flashy. Representing Next Level Racing and the highest quality sim racing products on the market, 2009, for more now than 15 years, Next Level Racing has been the place where sim racers have gone for trusted performance products. There's no better place to go, and if you want to support the Integrity Racing League and the action you see on your screen right now, that's exactly where you would have to go. NextLevelRacing.com. Use promo code INTEGRITY for a 10% off checkout discount, and we'll be right back after our final messages of the day, courtesy of our friends at Next Level Racing. 9 laps remaining, the single digits are counting down. Ethan Lane gonna hold himself up and ahead, and he's done a fantastic job at this point anyway, of course, of keeping himself out and above the rest of the field. Already building up a 4-second advantage in what's been, give or take, a 5-lap run. He's been remarkably consistent in just having that pace lap after lap. And tonight, Ethan Lane is looking to go for his own dominant race. We saw last night an incredible performance from Thomas Bressi. He was able to win an astounding margin of victory for him, all while leading 35 of 36 laps on the day, and he was the quickest in qualifying and both practices. Here comes Cody Smith with Bobby Ross, both of which have still been battling each other for the better part of 10+ laps now, including the segment before the caution. Ross has dropped down just a little bit further than he'd like. He started today in a very good spot, of course, up inside of the 3rd position, was running as high as 2nd to kick off the night, but now his track conditions have somewhat changed. Ross has only been able to hang on for a 9th place spot with 8 laps to go. Cody Smith is going to be just behind him and might be able to steal that position here, but Ross has been defending well. Maybe a chance for him to just keep his spot for 8 more laps if Cody Smith's damages catches up to him. Fife going to be there with Tom Wetmore just ahead. Tom has been very quiet tonight. He's from 17th up to 7th. And it looks like tonight, while Brad Patton's strategy once again has not fared out the best, another driver has decided to do his thing. And again, another driver has succeeded. Up 10 positions tonight for Tom Wetmore. This is about the best that he could get out of a night where he did not even set a qualifying time. And yet he's here. Oh, he's got contact. Wetmore going to be sliding, and he saves it, going through quicker than Jacob Fife. That will give Bobby Ross a spot. That gives Bobby Ross 2 positions. Side by side now with Wetmore. Ross goes for a risky drive and goes just under Wetmore. Tom survives. Bobby survives. And it looks like they'll still be battling into 1. 4 drivers, 1 position. Tom Wetmore gets very much rattled up, but he survives nonetheless. Wow. And Bobby Ross is going to make it by Jacob Fife. That will keep him up in front, at least for the time being, in the 8th position. And here comes Cody Smith. Smith now going to be coming up just ahead of Jacob Fife. He made that move during all the shuffling action, and he still keeps his eyes locked in on Bobby Ross, who was able to make it by Jacob Fife and almost made it by Tom Wetmore there, but Wetmore not going to bow down easily, even with that little bit of contact. Jacob Fife not going to make it easy for these drivers, but it looks like now he's fading back with 7 laps to go. Tire wear perhaps already catching up in what's been a 10+ lap stint for a vast majority of these drivers. Tom Wetmore, as a matter of fact, is the only driver right now on young rubber inside of the top 10. It looks like Jacob Fife is the only exception, as a matter of fact, but Wetmore decided to go down to pit road, 10 laps to go, and now he finds himself up into 7th. He's been able to make those gambling calls all night long. Didn't have the best of pace to kick the race off, but now up 10 positions. Wetmore in 7th, leading his team, and it looks like Roadhouse Racing will have something to talk about positively anyway when the job is done tonight, because Tom Wetmore has been able to survive, and now it looks like Cody Smith has to get back ahead of Bobby Ross. We'll ride on board now with the 18 and see what he does. Eating up the curb through the bus stop. That's exactly how the quickest of drivers go through it, and you can see Cody Smith is going to replicate that strategy very well. He decides to go all the way up out and through the carousel using every inch of road he has, and there's one that's destroyed. That's going to be the number 93 of Ryan Farrell. Ryan's night looks to be all but over here. We're going to take a look back and find out why. Here's the replay with the number 93 of Ryan Farrell, and it looks like he's going to get loose and destroy. Take a look at how the back end kicks out there, and it's a nasty hit, and it looks like he had nothing left in it, and he's going to disconnect as a result. Looks like his race is going to end prematurely. A very unfortunate way for that to occur. Meanwhile, battle progresses now with Bobby Ross, Jacob Fife and company. Ross is going to be now just behind the number 36. Jacob makes the move through the S's, and that brings Bobby back down to 9th after moving up to 8th once again. Fife going to find himself in the 8th spot, Cody Smith the 7th, Tom Wetmore the 6th, and so on and so forth. Every driver getting 1 spot out of Ryan there in the final 5 laps of this race. So Tom Wetmore almost with a chance to go for a top 5 here. Ross going to get into the grass ever so slightly, but it's not going to be anything all too crazy, and so he stays in tow with Jacob Fife. 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, the closest bundle throughout the entirety of the field. But one driver who's looking to make it close once again, well, here's the number 44 of Michael Araya. He's in 2nd. However, look behind him and fellow Big 3 member Nick Tarbuck. Gap between the two of which is now just about half a second overall, a give or take anyway, and Nick Tarbuck has been able to gain relatively quickly in the past lap and a half. Now the gap is going to be 3/10. As you can see, Nick is going to be up and on the pedal, trying to put all the power down he can, heading down the main straight once more. And Nick's going to be right behind as we head into the bus stop here. Gap will be about 1/4 of a second, if that here. Nick letting him through, opening the bus stop with the number 44 to have the advantage. It's hoping to force a mistake. You can see a nice and smooth exit there from the number 4 of Nick Tarbuck. He decides to use that exit and get a much smoother run out rather than diving in harder and maybe compromising the exit, which would set him up badly for the carousel. And that's why Nick Tarbuck just gained 1/10.5, and the gap between these two drivers has repeatedly shrunk. Michael Araya now going to be having to watch his back with 4 laps remaining, as now Ethan Lane comes across the line yet again. The signals are coming to a close here. This race is near its end. 3 laps to go. Now Nick Tarbuck finds himself the closest he's been all night long, and Nick Tarbuck indeed now looking for a chance for another top 2 finish. Let's see what he's got here, as he's going to be just behind. Here's Nicholas Ward, and you can see how lonely it is for the driver of the 97, but it's getting awful close here for Nick Tarbuck, who's getting closer and closer to making the move down to the bus stop. Both drivers going to be relatively even there through that penultimate section, and they make it on the final sector with a carousel and all in tow. It looks like Araya still holding the advantage, and both these drivers have been stuck to the ground. You haven't seen any of that sort of looseness other drivers have felt, even though these two drivers are really pushing each other to the edge. And at wit's end, the both of which have been, and there's still no signs of really any crazy wear or tear. Michael Araya still going to be just advantageous with 2 laps to go. Another battle still progressing here. It's Cody Smith and Jacob Fife. Fife has been able to return to the picture after the kerfuffle he had there with Tom Wetmore and company. And even though he made that mistake, the job is not done. Smith with a admittedly subpar exit through the Go Bowling Bridge. And now Jacob Fife going to have a chance through the 90. Here we go, laying on the brakes once again, backing it into the corner, and it looks like Cody Smith is going to give him just enough room so as to not give a speeding penalty. Fife gets the spot, and we'll see what iRacing decides about that one, because it looks like Fife a little bit wide, but shouldn't be anything too detrimental. It's all up to the simulator on that one. 2 laps remaining here. Tom Wetmore looking behind, and it looks like Fife has officially grabbed position number 7. The 7th spot will be his as the field once again careens through the chicane. Wetmore going to be a little bit loose once more, but he's been driving very well. Even with that pressure, he's admittedly somewhat put on himself. He's got younger tire. He can afford to maybe throw it around back and forth. That's what's been helping him out oh so much. 2 laps to go, coming to the white flag, this time by Nick Tarbuck and Michael Araya going to hold fort and pull through. White flag is out. 1 lap to go for Ethan Lane. And Ethan Lane has been nothing short of dominant today. He has led every lap in this race, and there has been nobody to stop him from the jump. it becomes a little bit tricky to really speak on the flaws or any of the in-betweens of this race, because for Lane, he's been out of the frame for most of the night. We've known he's been leading, we've known he's been quick, and we know what it takes for him to win. It's been that consistency and that raw pace. And tonight, it looks like he's had everything once more in his back pocket. This would be his 9th win of the season, and he's looking for a chance to make it double digits before the regular season ends. And it looks like tonight there will be nobody in his way of achieving that goal. He'll make it around the final 2 corners here, past the Jackie Stewart grandstands, and all the way under the Go Bowling Bridge to finish off a wonderful night for the 54 crew. All 45 laps led from the pole, fastest in every session. Ethan Lane is perfect at Watkins Glen, winning the Seneca Lake Grand Prix, and he did so with no competition. Coming across the line, the final battle going to be Cody Smith, Bobby Ross, Jacob Fife. Looks like Fife will lead Ross and Cooper. Cody Smith too, and no changes as they come across the start-finish. The big 3 come home first, second, and third, and in 20 races, the big 3 has won 19 of which Ethan Lane responsible for 9 wins. There's nothing quite like what we've seen this season. Lane, Lariah, Tarbuck, and the story hasn't even finished. But tonight, another unbelievable show of dominance from those drivers. Lane, flag to flag in first. Lariah, flag to flag in second. Nick Tarbuck didn't get the best qualifying run. He made it up to third, and he stuck it there, and nobody could get away. The big 3 are 1, 2, 3 tonight. Let's look at the results from here on out. Nicholas Ward will then be 4th, and Don Stevenson concludes the top 5 with Tom Wetmore then in 6th. Jacob Fife in 7th, and Cody Smith, just 0.3 of a second behind, finishes there in 8th. Bobby Ross, he started 3rd tonight in a great race for him, 9th. Kyle Cooper, solid and able to make it happen for a top 10 with 11th place just then on back in Ross Cato. Brian McFerrin and Brad Patton are the final 2 drivers on the lead lap, with 14th place John Steele, 15th place John Gearvon. The rookie, 16th Kyle Gilbert, and Ryan Farrell retiring in 17th. From here on out, all other drivers are retirees. Daniel Foss 18th, Randy Fiash 19th, Chuck Sweeting 20th, 21st and last, Alan Rawell to finish off the day. And now Lane will burn it down at the start-finish line. And going to take the track for perhaps a burnout tour, which is what we saw last night from Thomas Bressi. And here we go again. And Lane will now be making it up into pit road here to finish off the night and the well-deserved celebration. Lane back on top for his 9th win of the season, and the good times have kept rolling for this number 54 crew. Let's get a word now from your overall race winner, coming home at the top of the board yet again tonight, and he'll be standing by in victory lane in the waiting room momentarily. 9th win on the season overall in now 20 complete races, and nearly a 50% win rate for Lane as he moves on with a checkered flag tonight in Watkins Glen. From flag to flag, nobody standing in your way tonight, Ethan, and it looks like no matter what the field and the racing threw at you, you were clearly the quickest and the best to get the job done in Watkins Glen. It's your 9th win of the season. What a way to come back to victory lane so quickly.
Yeah, that one was a workout. We have Road to Pro on Thursday here, so we put a lot of time into the trucks. So I think that kind of helped me. kind of knowing the track and what it would do and where the grip was. Obviously, the trucks are a lot more underpowered than these, but knowing how it would attack the bus stop and carousel definitely found me probably, I think, 3 to 4 tenths a lap, which helped gap the field and then just short shifting where we needed a short shift. Overall, fun race. Kind of wasn't wanting that caution around halfway, but we were still able to pull it off.
And it looks like tonight, able to hang tough no matter what occurred. And the pace tonight was what set you free. Tire strategy, fuel strategy didn't seem to be anything too advanced. One stop for most everyone. And the caution did admittedly throw everyone for a loop there. Were you worried at all that something would have happened with your race lead after it?
I was, especially going into turn one, but everyone was very cordial about it going into turn one. But I knew if I got clear out of turn one, it was gonna be very tough for anyone to get by me, especially how quick we pushed the car on the short run. Overall, just yeah, it was fun. Lariah was really quick tonight, like late in the run, but I think we just had too big of a gap for it to matter.
And it looks like the gap was built up so quickly there was nothing else that could be done. You had 10 plus seconds on the first run and they ended up coming home with 4 seconds to spare on the second. Now, of course, all eyes are set on what's next, and we mentioned your chase for double-digit victory coming real close to the end here of the regular season, and you got yourself 2 more chances because we understand you will not be making Michigan. Up next will be 80 laps at Pocono, then 100 laps in Indianapolis, 2 big-time ovals to bring us back from a road course here, and we'll be going almost all ovals the rest of the way. To start, Pocono Raceway is up next. How do you feel about that circuit with these Gen 4 cars where there's a lot of power on a very big track?
Pocono is actually one of my favorite racetracks to go to. Kind of wish we were going to the old configuration with all the bumps and everything, but we'll have to make do with the new one. It's going to be interesting. I haven't ran the Gen 4 car there yet, so I'm not sure if we're going to be shifting or not. It just depends on how bogged down we do get, but yeah, it definitely will be interesting. Certain lanes work now, so we'll see how it goes next week.
And we'll, of course, be looking forward to what's up next for this team now with 9 victories in the regular season. Ethan Lane, you win the Seneca Lake Grand Prix. If you have any final thoughts for us, we'd love to hear it.
Just want to give a shout out to everyone who puts on this show every week. You, David, for putting on the broadcast, Fife, and everyone who puts on the league. Um, Definitely wasn't expecting to be that fast, but we got the job done. And yeah, we're looking forward to Pocono next week.
And all eyes set on what's next here in the Northeast Swing. Victory tonight in Watkins Glen. Ethan Lane, we thank you for your time.
All right, thanks so much.
And Lane going to be on the move with second place Michael Lariah through and through, the second best man on the day, and a very consistent run. If not for victory, it was for second, and a great points night here for our points leader. Michael, Watkins Glen seemed to come almost as easy to you as it was for Ethan Lane, and you locked yourself comfortably in for the runner-up position, if not for a little bit of challenge at the very end. What was it like out there?
It was certainly a challenge. Definitely whole nother animal compared to Sonoma. Definitely a lot more about attacking the track, and even though it felt like handling went away during a fuel run, the pace remained very consistent. There wasn't too much fall off, and so that was certainly a different set of challenges. You know, just being able to keep attacking the track lap after lap. So overall, it just kind of a different animal compared to Sonoma, but challenging in its own right.
And the challenges here, of course, certainly much different than Sonoma. And when we come to this circuit, no matter what it is, I think the big question is who has the ability to master Watkins Glen. It's not the most technical of circuits by appearance, but if you're good at it, it will show. And tonight, it seemed like you had the rhythm down and that momentum and hitting your marks. What else led you to success here with that in mind?
I think just not making major mistakes. I knew that coming into this race, uh, just with how this car is and all the horsepower that it has, and trying to get the power down off some of these corners. I mean, that was going to be a big factor, and so kind of learning when to short shift at certain points around the track was definitely important. just saving a little bit of the rear and not getting yourself real out of shape coming out of the corners. I mean, that was a big factor, and certainly having a good qualifying position. Oftentimes, if you don't have the best of qualifying runs, but you're a much faster car, um, there's a lot of mayhem the initial few laps during the race, and you also lose a lot of time, which then forces you to push harder to make up that lost ground. And so, even though Ethan was setting blistering pace, I was at least falling right into second place there and kind of running my own race, and that certainly helped things as far as not making those major mistakes. But overall, I would say it was definitely a successful night. I didn't expect to run this good coming into tonight. This is not one of my strongest road courses, so even though it stinks to finish second, and Ethan certainly had an insane pace tonight. Overall, just another solid night.
And it looks like keeping the solid points nights coming back and forth week in, week out. We got 2 more big tracks to head to as the regular season comes to a close. 3 more, as a matter of fact, and the next 2 are 2.5-mile circuits. Big tracks on the way. Pocono going to be up next here, Michael. How do you feel about that track?
Pretty good. That's one of my better tracks for sure. I'll just be curious to see how much we get in the way of fall off there. I'm hoping it's a little bit more than what I expect. I think if we have a race that is hot and slick with more fall off, it's certainly gonna play into my wheelhouse a bit. But we'll have to see. I mean, Ethan's been certainly just on a tear lately with his pace, and Nick really seems to figure out these races towards the later half and come out real strong. So I kind of expect more of the same. I feel like it's going to be the 3 of us battling for the win again. So, just got to make sure I get a good qualifying run in and just stay towards the front. And if I'm not leading, as long as I can stay in touch with the leaders, then I got a shot.
And it looks like the Big 3 reign of dominance continues for the 19th race of 20. Victory for you, Lane, or Tarbuck. And tonight, 1, 2, 3, and you find yourself right in the middle, Michael. If you have any final shout-outs you'd like to give, the floor is yours.
As always, going to give a shout out to my sponsor, SimSpeed Shop. Of course, David, for you putting on the broadcast each week, and the admins for making this show happen each week and just running everything smoothly here. And overall, everybody in the league tonight that was on track, everybody did a really good job being respectful about giving each other room and making it a fun race.
And another great race here with the road course action in mind. Michael Araya, second on the day here in Watkins Glen. Thank you once more for stopping by.
All right. Thank you.
And Michael Araya going to be on the move. And finally, Nick Tarbuck, who had to claw up to this position, didn't get the best of qualifying runs, but from 6th to 3rd on the day, and nearly a chance to go there for 2nd. Nick, you proved your worth, got up there for the podium once again, and it looks like another solid points day for the 4 crew, bringing yourself back up in the top 3.
Yeah, man, it was not expected. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I love the Glen, and I kind of starting to really like road course racing in these cars now, so the ones that aren't made for road course racing, but wasn't really expecting to do super well here. Last night did well enough at a very weird track with a different car, but I think some of the lessons learned from last night and taking care of the rears and just having a lot of momentum through the corners paid off tonight. So yeah, man, I can't complain with a 3rd place. I really wanted 2nd there at the end, but I figured I would just take what I can get without ruining anybody else's race and keep the top, or the bottom spot of the podium.
And it looks like tonight, the big thing, race pace. Even if qualifying spot perhaps wasn't right there for the 3rd spot, you had to work for it with the competitive field we saw. Most drivers on the same tire strategy, and you still had the upper hand there. Battling with those drivers and having to make your way up, what was it like having to deal with the field, of course, pretty active with traffic, especially when those battles got close?
It was really fun, man. I'll be honest with you. Last week in this series, I didn't qualify and I had to come from the back, and that was fun because just battling throughout the field is always fun. But at the road course, it's a little bit different because it's always just little groups of cars here and there battling. And there was one part in the race, I think end of lap 15, start of 16. I think you even called it on broadcast where we were going 3 wide. It was Farrell, myself, and Nick Ward. And man, we were just battling for so many laps in a row. And it was like a little bit frustrating because I'm like, I know I can pass him if I get the chance. But it was just so much fun with us three, giving so much respect and room and racing really hard. So the fact that we were able to do that and make our way up to the top 3 was just, it was fun all around. No nonsense, just a really good race up through the field, and everybody showed a lot of respect and gave a lot of room.
And the battling as real as it got brings us now to the very final leg. 3 more races, 3 big tracks. Now, you and 2 other drivers are officially locked into the regular season's conclusion. On to the playoffs you go. But of course, all eyes are set on whether or not you can break out there and get your 5th or maybe more with victory lane in mind. Pocono Raceway's up next. Then we have Indianapolis, and then we have Michigan. And of course, all eyes are going to be on Pocono first and foremost. And heading back into the Northeast, Pocono Raceway, track we visit, both on the Ignite and Octane Series schedule, and you might have the upper hand when it comes to that maybe previous advantage here in this league. What's it like heading back now to Long Pond with that being said?
Yeah, man, I'm really looking forward to Pocono. I don't want to like count my chickens before they hatch or anything, but I did really well there, I feel, in the Ignite Series. I really I feel like if the cautions didn't come out, it would have been an absolute walk in the park, but unfortunately, it's not how these races go sometimes. So I'm feeling good about it. This car handles pretty similarly to the Xfinity car. So we'll see. I'm just going to go out there and have some fun, knowing that I should do pretty decently, but I don't want to go in with too many expectations because then I'll get upset and disappointed if I screw something up. But yeah, man, looking forward to the next few races here. Really like the tracks coming up.
And now, coming off for yet another podium finish here, the Big 3 keeps things moving, and Nick Tarbuck clawing up for a 3rd place finish tonight in Watkins Glen. If you have any final shout-outs you'd like to give or any last messages, we'd love to hear it.
Yeah, man. Well, I want to thank you for broadcasting, as always. Great broadcast. I want to thank the admins for putting on a good race. Thanks to all the drivers that came out and really put a good race on as well. I want to thank the boys back home for watching. I want to thank my mom, dad. And well, I guess we'll see you guys next week.
There we have it. Nick coming through for the final step on the podium here in Watkins Glen. We once again thank you for your time.
Thanks, man. Have a good one.
And now we've spoken to all your top 3 drivers on the day. Nick Tarbuck coming home for a 3rd place finish. Michael Araya there in 2nd. And tonight, dominant as he's been, 9th win on the campaign, Ethan Lane. Nothing changes, no new drivers have locked themselves in, and the Big 3 pulled together for the 19th win of their respective campaigns. It has been an unbelievable season so far for these 3 drivers, and they have been able to defy the odds and continue making it to victory lane no matter when and where we race here in the Integrity OCTANE Series. And what a way it ended here from the virtual Watkins Glen International. We hope you enjoyed coverage here of the Seneca Lake Grand Prix, the 20th race here in the 2024 season here for the OCTANE Series, and we keep things moving. Up next, going to go down to Long Pond, Pennsylvania for the Pocono Raceway. It's our return there after we raced in the Ignite Series, and we hope to take the Gen 4 stock cars and have just as much fun next week, next Tuesday night, same time, same place, live on FTN. I've been David Kreutz, your host, commentating and producing, so if you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like on the stream and subscribe to the channel. Your support is always greatly appreciated. We thank you all for watching live on FTN, night's coverage of the Seneca Lake Grand Prix, and we hope you have a fantastic night.